Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I am so happy that you are here and circling up with me and my special guest today. For 17 years, I've been bringing women around the world Aspire magazine. I pinch myself when I say that because what started as a seed in my heart has just become this magazine embraced by women on the path of self-discovery. And I'm passionate about bringing you content, resources, experts that are dedicated to inspiring you to live your best lives. I also have a big surprise for those who follow my publishing company. I am about to announce the call for authors for our 20th book, a sacred anthology. I'm not even going to reveal the name. The big reveal's coming. But if you want to get the details of how you can share your story in our upcoming anthology, visit inspiredlivingpublishing.com and register for the VIP list. While you're there, you're going to see a free writing prompts gift. Just go up to the nav bar, grab that. And I look forward to the possibility of publishing your sacred soul story, my friends. So guess what we're talking about today? We're talking about something that I think all of us have thought about. What would you do if you had the chance to leave everything behind and start a completely new life? A life in a place that just feeds your soul, nourishes your spirit. Well, that's precisely what Emily Francis did when she moved her family to the Mediterranean during the 2020 pandemic. There, she learned insider secrets to one of the healthiest lifestyles in the world. And, she is the author of, I think this is I want to say 5th or 6th book, all self-help. And I have in my hands her most recently released, The Taste of Joy, Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savoring. Emily is a highly sought after author, radio host, columnist, and wellness expert with vast education and experience. Her commitment to total body, mind, and spirit wellness is her driving force. And I am so excited to have you here, Emily. So welcome.
Linda. Hi, Linda. I love visiting with you. I'm here in Malta. I'm here in Malta and it is storming. So you might hear my dogs barking because they're terrified.
Well, I got to tell you, I can remember having you on the show and talking about this dream in your heart. And here you are holding this call from the beauty of Malta.
Yes.
So take us back to that moment that you even had that seed in your heart right before leaving in 2020. Why Malta? Why leave? Bring us into that, because I know some women and families might be dreaming about the same thing.
Well, Malta wasn't where I wanted to go as far as the name Malta. What I wanted was 2 things for my life, which was to live in a country that was a GMO-free country, not that just sold organic, but that banned glyphosate spray and the poisons and the toxins. So I wanted to live in a GMO-free country. And I wanted to live in a country where my children didn't have to practice active shooter drills and I wasn't terrified to let them go to school. That was it. And I know that's a trigger for people, but those were the 2 things that meant the world to me and I wanted away from. And so when the pandemic hit and my husband started working from home, I started becoming relentless. Like, let's go to Costa Rica. Let's go to Hawaii. Like, I wanted someplace, and Malta was never in the thought for me. And then his boss got us an opportunity to move to Malta and make it our home. And when I looked it up, the first thing I Googled was, is Malta GMO free? And it said Malta was the first of the EU to ban genetically modified organisms and foods. Well, that's like my big box. And Malta is considered one of the safest countries in the world. So, it checked our boxes. But my husband and I both, it wasn't the thought of like, okay, let's move to Malta. It was more just let's move to a place that we feel safe, that we want to eat healthy, that we want a new life. And Malta turned out to be so much bigger and greater than anything I could have planned on my own. That's where spirit comes in, because what I would have done would have been a smaller place and a smaller jump and closer to home. And what I got was a life that I never saw coming. That I'm honestly such a different version of myself here. And even my husband the other night, he goes, I gotta say, happy looks good on you.
Ooh, I love that, because one is those are two important goals for you, and like you said, someone else's goals may be different. It could just be the ease of a lifestyle, but not many people have the courage to kind of break protocol, right? Because you leave behind family, friends.
Yep.
How did you navigate what I believe is the number one reason that many don't follow this dream? Because of, I don't want to say guilt, but the feelings of, what about leaving my family? How did you navigate that?
We got lucky in a way, because I'm really, really close to my family. And I never thought I would leave. And I thought if I did leave, I would always take my mom with me. I thought I would take care of my mother until the day she died. And I still would, if she, God forbid something turned, I still would want her to come and be with us. But the year before we moved to Malta, we actually moved across the city. So we moved an hour away from my mom's house. We were actually living at my mom's, because before Malta, we thought we were going to be moving to Grand Cayman. We sold our house and moved in with my mom, thinking, okay, when it all comes forward, we'll be ready to go. And then nothing ever came. And so we were all stuck living at my mom's. And my husband was like, okay, I haven't lived with a parent since I was like 23, or since before college. Like, I can't do this anymore. So we had moved across the state, just for happenstance, really. But it gave me the break that I needed, because I love my family, but it was the first step in growing up. Even though I was 45 when we moved to Malta, it's not like I was a young kid, but I always did what my mom said, and I always listened to her above me. And there comes that moment, especially when you're raising your own children, where you have to become the mom and you have to become the voice. And that step was really tough, but it was necessary. And it happened the year before we moved to Malta. So I'd already kind of established some space and some ground rules. And then when we moved here, we brought her, she came for 2 months, and I talked to her still every other day. And so it doesn't feel like it's so far away. And my sister came this past summer. My mom came the summer before. But that was honestly the hardest part of moving. The very hardest part was, how am I going to leave my family? But there's just that other part, that like my family that has to be my priority are the people that live in my home. And at the time when we moved across in Georgia, we bought a home with an in-law suite so that my mom would go with me. And she chose not to come. And so at that moment, when she chose not to, we said, okay, we're not going to make our decisions based around this anymore. Like, we have to become independent. And so we did, but it was not easy, I have to say. I think people that move are really, really brave. And I find over here that most people have moved. It's a very integrated European country that has a lot of locals, but a lot of expats here. And it makes me look at people with a very different level of respect and reverence now that I know what that takes.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And thank you for your honesty and vulnerability, because, Dana and I have been going to Costa Rica for 30 years. We were just there for 3 weeks. We just rented a house for this coming year for a month. And for years we thought, oh, we're going to buy there. And then the grandchildren came. My grandchildren are 22 and 11. And this Amma I'm like, nah, not leaving the kids. And now that they're getting older, especially the little one, she's 11, we have this freedom. Like, I love that freedom-based lifestyle, that I can run my business from my laptop anywhere. So now we're like starting to expand our time there. I don't think we'll buy there, because I love where I live in the middle of the woods on the water. But I'm now expanding and leaning into, okay, the kids the grandchildren are bigger, the little ones more accepting. Though she said, 3 weeks was tough. Don't even think about a month. So we have to break in.
Oh,
Yes, so this coming year we'll be there a month, but we're flying them in for a week. So
that's
that
great.
it breaks up. Yeah, we're extremely close. We see her all the time. She lives, God, 3 miles away. So thank you for sharing that, because that's some of the reason. My extended family, I'm fine with, right? Because it's all about my core family, like you said.
Right.
My honey and my daughter and my grandchildren. So thank you for sharing that. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about what is it about the Mediterranean that makes life so different. Like, I want to hear about the energy, the people, because that's what Dana and I love about Costa Rica. We don't go to the resorts and all that. We love going to the restaurants owned by the locals. We do go to some other restaurants, but we love the people. That's why we keep going back there. So
That's how I feel.
yes, we'll be back in a moment. I am with Emily Francis. You can learn more at emilyafrancisbooks.com. Be sure to grab a copy of her newest book, The Taste of Joy. We'll be right back, my friends.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation, and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I am so excited that you are here today for this inspiring conversation. So, Emily, what have you discovered about the Mediterranean that makes it feel so different on every level?
Have you ever seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yes.
Okay. And have you ever seen the movie Under the Tuscan Sun?
Yes, one of my favorites.
Take those two and put them together, and that is my life. And add in a pinch of Game of Thrones, because that's where it was filmed, here in Malta. The people in the Mediterranean, not just in Malta, are loud and they're proud. They're proud of their history. They're proud of their heritage. They're proud of their people, and they're protective. And if you become friends, you get taken in like family. And even this, I'm going to give a story of today at the grocery store, because this is Mediterranean living to me. There are an exorbitant amount of elderly people here, and in Italy and in other Mediterranean countries, the people tend to live much longer as a rule. In fact, they live more, that their average lifespan is more than 10 years longer than the United States. I'm not even going to say it's because of the food, but I'm going to say it's because of food. Anyway, there's a lot of old men here, and I just love them. I love them. And today I'm at the grocery store by myself, and this man walks past me and he speaks to me in Maltese. And he said something to it just seemed, I know he ended with grazie, so thank you, something. And I thought he asked how I was. And I turned around and I thought of the only Maltese that I knew. And I said, Jena taiba, grazie, which means I'm well, thank you. And he turned around, he said, what? And I said, Jena taiba, grazie. And he came back over to me and he put his hand around my arm. But it's not like in America, that would be off-putting. Here, it's people speak and they touch and they get close. And he said, oh, I thought you were Maltese. You're not Maltese. I said, no. And he said, where are you from? I said, the United States. And he got in closer. He said, and he started doing his hand. He goes, okay, the United States. It's a big place. Where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And he said, oh, CNN. And then just smiled. He said, okay, good day. And I said, good day. And I thought, that's what life is here. People, my children go to school and you hear the teachers open their arms and go, hello, good morning, poopa, which means doll. Everybody's loving here. Like, remember when we grew up and times were simpler and people were more loving and children were put at the forefront? That's what life is here. So even though it's beautiful sunshine and slower pace, which does come with its challenges, it's men not being afraid to hug and kiss their children. It's men not being afraid to embrace. It's women not being afraid to embrace and hug and kiss their children and your children. It's women not being afraid to make you sit down and I cook you something. Okay, you eat, and the men do too. I mean, they're the sweetest. It's just loving. It's really a country, in my opinion, that's surrounded with a level of love that I prayed for my children. But I got double because I get it for me too. And I wasn't expecting people to be so delightful to the parents or to other adults. And they embrace. Everybody seems to embrace here. And just that this morning at the grocery store, it was just sweet. But that's what life is.
Yeah, it's just those moments of connection where we've all experienced life in the world the way it is right now. It's so disconnected. We can see someone at a grocery store and never make eye contact, right? We're just like little robots going through life until you awaken that there's things that are more important. But what I'm hearing is everyone is interconnected and the energy is flowing, and you're seen and you're heard and you're loved.
It's, okay, so like I said, I went to the grocery store this morning, which you have to do every 2 to 3 days here because the foods don't come with preservatives like you're used to. And so everything spoils in 2 to 3 days. So your fruits, your vegetables, anything fresh that you're buying, you can't do it for the week. You have to know what you're going to make. But today at the grocery store, I helped a woman find taco seasoning because her granddaughter's coming over and wants Mexican food. And she didn't know what that means because they don't really serve Mexican food here. And I had picked up some I picked up a box kit of tacos because my husband makes tacos here and he does the seasoning and all that. And so when I went and picked it up, she said, oh, I'm trying to figure this out. My granddaughter's coming and she's requested Mexican. And how do I do this salsa? And what do I need to do for the meat? And how do I do any of this? What do I put on top? And I ended up taking her upstairs and downstairs to get her meal prepared for her granddaughter. I don't know this woman. I didn't meet her with name. I just helped. That's how people roll over here. And I just think it's lovely.
Oh, I love it. And that's how my experience is Costa Rica. It's that same energy. I'm curious, how have you and the children and your husband integrated with the language? Are you taking classes, or do most speak English or no?
Well, the 2 languages of Malta is English and Maltese. So everybody that's local already, because the last country that ruled Malta was England. So everybody speaks English here. But the Maltese is 70% Arabic. And it is an extremely difficult language. So I really know a few key statements. But the funny thing is, when you listen to the locals talk, about every 10 words is a word in English. So you can kind of catch up with whatever it is that's going on in the conversation and then sort of decide if you want to be part of it or not. And then if you put yourself in, they'll go in English.
And what about the schools, like your children? Are they taught in English or are they?
They are taught. Well, we go to a private school. It's not an international school, but it is very international. But every school on the island requires you to be at least bilingual. So my children are taking Spanish 5 days a week, and then they also take Language Alive, which is about 12 weeks of Italian, then French, then German. They go through. And then now they take something called MLB, which is Maltese as a foreign language. So it's not the same Maltese that the local children have to take. It doesn't get graded. You don't have to take tests per se, but it's so that everybody can learn Maltese. So my children take 3 languages a day at school.
Wow, that is powerful. I love that though, because it continues the native language. It
It
continues their
does.
history.
Their history. And I mean, okay, so where I live in Malta, any place in Malta, by the way, there's only one airport. You can get to Spain in 2 to 3 hours. You can get to Italy in 2 hours. You can get to France in less than 3 hours. Like you're right here. So our next trip we want to do is Spain so that my children can practice their Spanish. I mean, I spent Easter last year in Paris. Like that's just crazy.
I know, because we're so used to in the United States, right? Like going next door is, going to California. But here, because I have a nephew that lives in Scotland, and he's like, he was blown away when he first started living there about 7 years ago. He's like, can you believe I can get right to Paris and Spain? He's naming all these places. And I'm like, this is extraordinary. So he has seen more of Europe because of the closeness of everything. And he's really thriving there.
People here really travel. I have to say, I have only been to Paris and Rome since I've moved here, and Sicily, but barely. And then I go to Gozo, the sister island of Malta, but I'm not really much of a traveler. My husband has been to Africa several times, and Dubai and Qatar and all these Middle Eastern countries because they're all over here for business too. And he's been to Greece and he's been to Spain. It's crazy what he's been able to do since we've gotten here, mostly for work. But I want to travel more. It's just that we have 3 dogs and I hate leaving them. My friend comes and stays the night, stays with them, but I don't particularly enjoy traveling much. And I like to travel about 3 days and then I'm ready to come home. But for me, I live in heaven on earth. I live in paradise here. So there's not a lot of places that I want to go more than where I am.
Yes. And it sounds like the kids are thriving too. How old are they again?
8 and 10, and they love. This is year 3 going to school here now, and it was hard because my children had to both skip a grade in school because they start younger here in Malta, so that was really tough. In fact, my oldest had to skip 2 grades because I had held her back to be the oldest in kindergarten instead of the youngest because she was a summer birthday, and here the cutoff is January, not summer. So my child had to skip 2 grades, and my youngest had to skip 1 grade, and she's dyslexic, so that's tough. But they've really stepped it up. And now what I do for them, for anybody who's listening that can't get their kids to do homework, we go to a British school, and it's very, very academically challenging, and the amount of homework is pretty intense, and they're young. So I stopped doing chores. I don't pay an allowance. I give you a paycheck. So every Friday they get a paycheck. They get €1 a day, and their job is school. So that means homework. It means school. It means that you go there, you put in everything. If you have homework, if you have extra work as an adult, you do the job. So they get their paychecks every Friday and they save up. And it has worked remarkably well because we don't argue anymore and it's been 2 years. So this has been tried and true that they come home and I say, okay, what do we have for homework? Let's knock it out. Let's do this. And they will sit down and really go for it because they're saving up for whatever the next thing is they want to get.
Oh, I love that. And especially because it's academically challenging, not doing chores and anything else keeps them focused on the number one thing, which is education. So that's a great tip. And I want to ask you, before we go to the next step, next break, is you've written a lot of books, right? And
Yes.
they're all in self-help. How is The Taste of Joy, Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savoring? How is this one completely different from your others since you've been having this experience?
Well, it is completely different. You can still see the Emily Francis woven in, and I still bring you into your body some. But this, I take your pathway into your soul by way of food, by way of the way that you experience life, but mostly by food. So even the table of contents is the menu. And I take you through the aperitif and the appetizer and the main meal and the dessert and then the after meal digestive and espresso, because the way that they swallow life here is very, very different. And that is one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that the words like self-care and intentional, like you take a shower and have this intention, those are all sort of buzzwords that don't live here. So that like the self-care idea that we have to push really hard in the States doesn't really exist like that here because they already abide by those rules. They never overcommit. If they feel like that's going to be too much, they're simply not going to add it. Whereas I feel like in America, especially as a mom, they almost compete with each other to keep up. Who's the mom of the year? Who's the super ultra mom? Who can take on this much tasks? And here they have, I mean, the moms are way involved, but not as a, they don't overcommit. And so people tend to slow it down a lot. And so I wanted to bring that in as a way to nourish your soul. So the self-help is different in this book because it's introducing you through the ideas of food and what I've learned. Because what I do here is I interview local farmers and fishermen, and I learn about the way they grow and harvest food. And I write for the tourism magazine. And so I go with a camera crew and I interview them live on video and I learn their family dynasty because these farmers that I'm meeting have been in this family business for over 100 years. So what's the wisdom that they know? How are they so happy? How are they living 10 years or more longer than the average person? How are you seeing so many elderly people? It's a way of life. And that's what I'm doing is I'm taking you through by way of food to figure out what that means.
That's so beautiful and powerful. We're going to take a break, Emily, and when we come back, I want to talk about the Mediterranean diet, right? Because we hear it all the time here, but you're living it. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. My special guest is Emily A. Francis. I invite you, visit her website, EmilyAFrancisBooks.com, and grab a copy of The Taste of Joy. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
My beautiful friend, it's time to say yes to yourself so you can start consciously creating a life that lights you up. You've been at the end of your never-ending to-do list for long enough. Carrie Wooden, certified therapeutic art, life coach, and law of attraction and desire factor coach, works with women like you who have forgotten what brings them joy and are ready to say enough to moving through life on autopilot. Through Carrie's empowering private sessions and supportive group programs, you'll learn the tools and processes to ignite your creativity, uncover your blocks, connect with your inner voice, and make decisions based on joy and alignment instead of should and have-tos. Take the first step on your path to reclaiming your joy. Schedule your complimentary joy empowerment session at carriewooden.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for circling up with me and my special guest, Emily Francis, today. We're talking about her book, The Taste of Joy, about her journey to leaving the U.S. to move the family to Malta and all the blessings that have unfolded since then. So Emily, we hear everything, grab any magazine at the grocery store, it's the Mediterranean diet. What is it as you are living it, my friend? And what is your average diet like?
Well, I have to say, you know how I just mentioned that I find it almost like buzzwords, the intentional and the self-care practices that we have taken on and write so many things about. And here it's more a way of life. The Mediterranean diet is much the same way. The way that we have translated it makes it all about what we put in our mouth only. But okay, so I'm going to take you through a child with special needs who has sensory issues gets put on a sensory diet. And if you don't know anything about it, it sounds like, okay, we've really altered their food and it's all about their diet. And that is part of it. But a physical therapist or an occupational therapist will prescribe what's called a sensory diet. And that means they know their triggers, they do some exercises, they approach their day at school, they know how to calm themselves, they know they can go do push-ups on the wall, they're allowed to leave the room. It's not the food, not a diet. That's the same thing, translation of the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet definitely circles around food, but it isn't a diet of any kind. It is a way of life. So to me, now that I live here, the Mediterranean diet is sitting with friends a lot longer than I ever sat with friends in my life before. Since I was in college, maybe, where you were right down the street. So the Mediterranean diet definitely includes a lot of seafood. It includes really high quality olive oil on everything. Like if you go to a restaurant here, you get packets of olive oil at your table. They don't really use a lot of butter. There's still butter, but it's really pure. But they do olive oil. But the olive oil isn't a bunch of blends of high and low. It's high. You know who, especially here, you go and buy it from the farmers. You know who's growing it. You know what's in it, which is nothing but olives. No preservatives, no additives. So the Mediterranean diet, in my opinion, it kind of centers around olive oil and wine and things that keep your body and your mind and your heart kind of healthy, happy. But it isn't, okay, we don't eat this, we do eat that. In fact, one of the things I talk about is the Greeks. They have a lot of rules when it comes to food. And it is really funny to be here because now that I look at like certain Greek recipes and things that aren't from Greek people per se, they violate a lot of the Greek rules. So the real Greeks don't put lemon and feta in the same bowl. But if you look up and you go to all these like Greek, recipes, there's lots of it. But here they'll like yell at you like, stop, don't put that in. They don't match. And then they also don't do tomato and lemon in the same bowl. So you really kind of have to watch what you're doing there. But here's the rule of the Greeks, and I love it. If there's olive oil at the bottom of the dish, which there always is, you take your bread and you drop it in at the very last bite so that you soak up every part of that oil. That is a metaphor for life if I've ever heard one. You soak it all up. You don't look at it and go, no, that's fattening, I'm done. They look at it and go, oh, I still have bread. I got to get that oil. I'm going to take every little nook and cranny and I'm going to soak it up because that's the fun. The last bite is the most fun. It's all the junk at the bottom. And I love that because they're not measuring over here. They're not counting calories over here. Now, I do think there's a lot more intermittent fasting, but not because they're intermittent fasting. I just think people tend to drink a lot more coffee and eat a lot less food during the day. Because here's what I did have to learn. When people would say, let's go for coffee, I used to think that meant let's go for a meal and have coffee. So I would purposely not eat and I would show up really hungry and then nobody would order food. And it was like, oh no, I'm starving. So I've kind of learned now that really going for coffee does mean literally just going for coffee. So I've had to learn some of that.
And what made you start working? Because you, like you mentioned earlier, you're writing for the local tourism magazine. You have a website along with your own called mymaltalife.com. So I know you're an avid writer. Is that why you said, I want to bring out what I'm discovering and learning about the Malta way of life? Is that why you started writing for the tourism mag and created the blog My Malta Life?
Well, it's funny. I'm not allowed to work here. I'm not allowed to get paid. I don't have a work visa. And I have to tell you, so I still write my books and I still host my own show on Healthy Life Radio. But when I got here, there is something incredibly magical about asking to work for someone and not negotiating my worth in dollar figures. And so I started reaching out to the magazines and the newspapers. Can I write articles? Can I do something? I'm an American. I'm seeing Malta in such a different way. I'd love to share my perspective. And a lot of people just either ignored me or turned me down. And then I contacted Oh My Malta, which is the tourism magazine. And I said, I'm an American author. I'm here. I live here. I would love to do something. And my editor wrote me back and she said, oh my gosh, we would kill to have you work with us, but full disclosure, can't afford you. And I said, you know what? I'm willing to write in exchange for publicity. And she wrote back and she goes, can we have a phone call? And so, later, I am now not just writing, because I said to them, I want to write an article. And I said, no, that's not true. I want to write a column. And then by the end of our phone conversation, it wasn't just writing a column. It was, can I bring our camera crew and you interview live on camera? And that was so far beyond what I was hoping to create. And it has been magic. It's been absolute magic. So we did like a first trial run with the potato farmer who grows potatoes for Air Malta. And the reason my editor was so delighted by my obsession with the foods and so surprised by how something like a potato would mean so much to me. It's because she said, like, what would you do? And I said, well, the Maltese potatoes are really important. She said, why? And I said, because a standard American potato goes through 5 rounds of bleaching before it gets on our plate. I want to know what potatoes look like when they've not been touched. I want to know how you're growing them. She said, okay, go find a farmer and figure it out. And I had to track down to the Netherlands, find a potato farmer that grows for the airlines here in Malta, and then get this interview in less than 24 hours. Like, it was so really nuts. But I was not going to back out. Like, it was going to have to happen. And so then I went and we dug them out of the ground, and they are so clean looking because the soil's so different here. It looks like somebody washed them off and hid them underneath for show. It didn't even look real. And the potatoes taste different here. So when I started doing the interview, my editor looked up at me and she goes, you're doing all foods from now on. And that's how it started. And I have been doing it for more than 2 years. Every month, I meet a farmer. I have to go find them. I have to think of a food and what's in season, and then go find a farmer and then book the people, and we go and we interview. And I have made a life for myself here that I never could have dreamed in my wildest fantasy. I couldn't have predicted this opportunity. And even like our tomato interview we did in the greenhouse, we had 64,000 views the first week. I never had stuff like that in America.
No, you don't. And what's beautiful too is at the same time you're educating, right? It's like you're showcasing the farmer and their way of life, but you're also educating how food should be grown.
Exactly. And then we finished the articles with a recipe. And so, and a lot of these, it's the same thing. In the book, at every chapter, I offer a recipe. And the recipes are so simple. They didn't need pictures. And that's the thing about eating here. The Mediterranean diet is that we're very used to, at least I was in the States, I was very used to over-seasoned things, or food coloring being very bright. And when I got here, I had to almost realign my palate to find big flavors in small things because I wasn't used to it anymore. And now I can really taste the olive oil. I can taste the leaves, and I can pick up some of the hints. I can taste the lemon. I love to go outside and pull the tangerines off my tree and put them and take the skin and put it into my salad dressing, or the orange zest. It's so healthy and so magnificent. And you don't need a lot of other seasonings because you're using real food offerings.
And so beautiful. I loved how you incorporated, I loved how you broke down the chapters, like you said earlier, the appetizer, like, and that was in that section, it's like the spice of life, get comfortable outside your comfort zone. Then you have the section on the main course, the dessert menu. One of the topics that you know what we're going to do, because I know I'm going to get into a conversation with you. We're going to take another break. It's actually our final break. And when we come back, I want to talk about, there's a chapter that really, I really want to cover it because it's about you deserve to be the breakout star of your life. That one really spoke to me because it goes back to the beginning of this conversation about sometimes we have a dream in our heart and we don't allow ourselves to go after it because of mindset or beliefs or blocks. So if you're open, I'd love to come back from break and talk about that.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be back, my friend. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I invite you to visit my guest, Emily Francis's site, EmilyAFrancisBooks.com. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you ready to make the second half of your life the best half of your life, my midlife friend? Living a life full of happiness, abundance, and success is possible when you learn strategies to soothe your inner critic, honor your inner wisdom, and that support you to co-create your life from a place of joy and possibility. Don't walk the journey alone. Midlife Transformation Guide, Master Certified Law of Attraction Coach, and Certified Desire Factor Coach, Karen Shire, will passionately support you to uncover and release what no longer lights you up, so you can go from feeling stuck, stressed, and unfulfilled to feeling free, empowered, and eager for the next chapter of your life. Learn more at KarenShireCoaching.com and schedule a complimentary discovery call today.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at EJI.org.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Today, I am speaking with Emily Francis, highly sought after author, radio host, columnist, and wellness expert, and the author of The Taste of Joy, Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savoring. So one of the chapters that really spoke to me just because of my belief system is under the main course, and it's called You Deserve to Be the Breakout Star of Your Life. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, ooh. And so I dove in and share why that was important to you to share that, and also what it means to be a breakout star in your own life.
I'm going to give you a little background. I was a college cheerleader. I was an aerobic director. I was always in phenomenal shape until I was 25 and then started dealing with really life-altering anxiety and panic, and my body changed in a big way. But no matter what, whether I was in martial arts or whether I was in cheerleading or whether it was later, I always seemed to find people that had no problem telling me about my body, offering that I would be so hot if I were this weight or this thing, even when I was at the peak, even when I was really happy with what I looked like. And it always seemed very comfortable. And because of that, I had a lot of people tell me I would be successful if. And so as an adult, once you start having children and, you're not thinking about that anymore. You're writing books. I'm not trying to be on TV. I've never wanted to be an actress. It's never, I'm 4'11". I'm not trying to be a model. It was never that stuff. And it was always a journey of you have to really fall in love with who you are today, in this moment, no matter what your body looks like, no matter what your face, like it's not about that. It's finding peace and love in your life. And then I move here and I'm not thinking of any of that sort of stuff. And I'm asked to be on camera and not just the camera for the Oh My Malta stuff. I've been on a wellness show more than 30 episodes since I moved here. And those are things that I could not have predicted. And also I kept thinking they're going to be disappointed. They're not going to want me back. I don't look like they want, especially in the Mediterranean. You have so many diverse bodies here. And not a person has spoken anything like that. And like I said about the tomato interview, we had 64,000 views the first week, and we started getting hundreds of comments. And I braced myself. I don't know if you or anybody who's listening has seen the Brene Brown special on Netflix, but one of the things she talked about is that her TED Talk, all the comments were about her looks and her body, and she was shocked, at all this just unbelievable hate. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at these comments, but it's okay because it really has nothing to do with me. This is here in Malta. Every comment, way to go, Joseph. We're so proud of you, Joseph. We love your tomatoes. Way to go, Sunripe. There was not a word, not one word about me. Not nice, not mean. Just, that means I did my job. I highlighted the farmer. That's what I was there to do. And that's what they got. And so I had to start talking to myself to say, it's okay that you're starting to get success at 47, 48 years old in a way that you never saw, because God forbid somebody would think you have something great to bring to the table and it's not the perfect package. And so I found myself, because I go outside under the moon every night and pray, give thanks, and that's my time. And I found myself just saying, you deserve to be the breakout star of your life. You are allowed to be successful. You deserve this. You deserve to be the breakout star. Don't let any of your old imaginings of all those old people bring you down. You're becoming the breakout star of your life, and you're allowed. And that changed me. And it wasn't somebody else saying it to me. It was me in spirit. That's it. And it has been so magnificent to realize that people here are not thinking, I would put you on camera. Instead, they're like, you're so much fun. In fact, when I filmed the wellness show, I go and I film 6 episodes at a time. And there's a woman that always seems to be lined up on the same days as me. And last time I was there, she said, I told them that I want to come every time you're here. You're my favorite guest. I always want to hear everything you want to say. I was about to leave because I just did my segments, but then I heard you were coming and I said, no, I'm staying. These people aren't doing that stuff that I grew up around. And that has been liberating. It's been freeing to my soul and to the way that I look at myself. And one of the things I say in the book is I have got to stop tearing at my flaws when the people around me are highlighting my strengths. Yeah. So that's where you deserve to be the breakout star of your life, because we all deserve to be the breakout star of our life. And those voices in our heads usually never came from us in the first place.
No, it's all those, because I do a lot with mindset and scripts and inner beliefs. We have these unconscious scripts that we picked up from childhood, and they're always playing that we're not enough, or your hips are too wide, and it's magnified here in the States because of what's coming at us through the media. And what I'm hearing is the energy is pure love. So it's not even in their minds to look at your videos of your wellness episodes and go, what is she doing wearing that? Oh, why is she doing that? It's energy. Yes. Yeah, it's energy meeting energy. It's a completely different. So for you, it sounds like it was like your soul feels safe to be the star of your life.
I do. And it's really amazing because we did an interview at the prison bakery, which we are the only people that have actually been allowed in to do this interview, because they have a bakery there and they make like over 4,000 loaves of bread a week at the prison. And so somehow I got this idea. I went to my editor and I was like, okay, I have an idea, but it's out there. She was like, what is it? And I was like, I'm thinking the prison. She was like, make it happen. And so we get there And I meet the camera guy because they wouldn't let us use our regular camera guy. And I'm like, hi, I'm Emily. And he goes, no, I know you. I filled in for Paul one time. I filmed you at Hygeia. It's good to see you. And then the inmates come in and one of them says, oh, I watch you on TV. You help people's hands. Listen, I hurt myself. Can you help me? I ended up giving his forearms a massage. And it was like, my editor looked at me, she goes, what do you do here? Like, I'm busy. I have these opportunities coming at me. And it's incredible. And it is liberating to not be able to negotiate and say, no, pay me this. No, I'm worth this. It's really cool to go, look, I really want to do this because one, I do want to write. And two, I would never be invited to these random farmers' homes, sitting in their kitchen, becoming friends with them if I just showed up. It's very different when you show up and say, I'd like to do an interview on you. You're going to be in this magazine. It has 65,000 copies each month. You're going to be on camera and it has, hundreds of, thousands and thousands of views. And it's, and it's a family keepsake for them because these businesses are family businesses. So when they get the videos back, they are so proud that they did it and happy because most of these people are very, very camera shy and Maltese is their primary language. So they get really uncomfortable at first, and then I have to go meet them. And then I have to have another farmer vouch for me. And that's the thing about the Maltese, whether you wore the right thing, whether you look the right way, what their big thing is, are you good people? Because if you are, then you're invited.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing too is this series of doing the interviews with the farmers, it's creating community. Because you're bringing them, even though they've been in the background and everyone knows they're the local farmer for, let's say, potatoes or whatever it may be, by shining the spotlight on them, the community's like, oh, right in our town. It builds this sense of deeper connection.
It does. And, people don't know. If you're in the farming town, they're farmers, but the rest of the island doesn't. So I've had to go find these people and discover them because it's basically like Malta's best kept secret. And what's happened is the younger generations are much more into computers. Like the big thing on the island now is gaming. It's a huge industry here, which is what brings in so many expats. But the farmers, in my opinion, are what make up the backbone of this country. And the fishermen in the fishing village are where the heartbeat of the entire island beats from. And that is because I have gotten to sit down with them. And honestly, I have fallen so madly in love with every single person that has invited me in. They're the kindest, most generous, charming, beautiful people I have ever witnessed in real life. And I just wish that the world could see them because they are magnificent.
Well, you've given my listeners and like a glimpse, like I can see the visuals flowing as you've been sharing throughout the show. And I'm so grateful that you shared your love of Malta and your experiences with my listeners. So thank you, my friend. And I want to invite everyone, please visit emilyafrancisbooks.com. Check out her other website, which is mymaltalife.com, to keep up with all the magic she is creating. Emily, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Linda. It's such a pleasure.
I always love circling up with you, my friend.
I always love sitting with you.
And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.